just as important, if not more important, is just the thing of the privilege of it all.
Mm.
Like you can't lose perspective on that. And sometimes you will. We're human. Like we're gonna if you get stressed, if you get like annoyed by a situation, you're gonna lose sight of it sometimes. But it's just having that, even if it's just at the very end of the day, going, I'm getting stressed here because I'm one of the videos that I've wrote about wrestling isn't going the way I want to like it to be. Oh, woe is me. Like
Mm.
it's never that big a deal, really. And like it's such an awesome position to be in. So yeah, that tends to bring me down to earth a bit.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talk Trash, and stand back with another video. This time, I'm joined by the one and only Gaerth Morgan from Whatculture Wrestling. So welcome to the show.
Yep. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for having me here, having me back. I'm excited to talk all things wrestling.
Let's do that, my friend. So for the good people that may not know, where do you first discover wrestling, Gareth, as an overall fan?
Where I discovered it, I've told this story a few times, like just through what culture videos and everything else. So that forgive me if you have heard it before. But I must have been in about year four. So what year would that make me? How old would that make me? That's probably about 7, 8,
About
that
that.
age. And my dad came home with an illegal copy of Wrestlemania 20 that he got from a
Mm.
friend at work. And he was like, "Do you want to watch this?" And he put it on, like, and I was half watching it. And I think I caught a glimpse of like a masked wrestler. I was like, "Who is that? That guy was cool." And it was Rey Mysterio as the Flash. And I was like, what is this? Hook this into my veins as an 8-year-old. I'm here. I'm ready for it. And then I just started watching the whole thing, and like I'd find like my matches. I was a fan of Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg, like back when that was the first one. So I was like, as a kid, not a clue in the world what was happening. It was just two big meaty
Yeah.
men to each other. And I just fell in love with it. I wore out the tape. I actually wore out the cruiserweight open bit, so it
Oh,
jumped,
yeah.
it'd skip over bits of it, and it just battered that tape. And from there, it was like a natural thing of getting the games and just slowly like tuning in, seeing it. Like it was, I think it was on Sky Sports at that
Mm.
point. And I'd always try and make an effort to watch SmackDown. Raw, I couldn't really catch as much because I think Raw was on. Raw was obviously on a Monday, always was. SmackDown was on a Friday, so I'd be able to either stay up late and watch it on a Friday night or catch it Saturday morning.
Mm.
So that was like my religious experience with wrestling, and I
Yeah.
stuck with it then. I had like maybe a bit of a time away from it when I was at like drama school, university. Like I had a bit of a like step back, but pretty much since about 2004, I've been hooked into it to certain levels.
Going back to Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg,
Mm.
why does that match speak to you when traditional wrestling fans laud that as one of the worst matches of all time?
I was a kid. I had no idea what was happening. They were just two superhuman, big old blokes, big mini men, as you could say. I didn't understand what a technical wrestling match or anything was at that point. I just saw big people smashing into each other, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was giving them the finger. It was a great time. It was just crazy for
Yeah.
me. It's like everyone's going, why is everyone going mad? Why is everyone booing? This is great. I had no idea. I had no context for any of this. I'd not seen any of the backstory coming. Not a clue. I think I'd had the highlight package, and WWE always make the highlight packages look like the greatest thing on planet Earth. So I thought this story is incredible. I had no point of reference. So you can imagine my face when I got a bit older and I realized what had actually happened. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not as good a match as I thought. That's all.
So where were you when you figured out, oh, that's what happened? That's why people didn't like it.
think it was I think it was when my fandom started to grow to the point of actually like going online, going on websites,
Mm.
going to stuff like Whatculture and searching, just trying to get that inside baseball perspective, I guess. Because I wasn't really that interested up to a point. I'll be completely honest with you. Up till about 14, 15, I couldn't care less what was happening behind the scenes. I
Mm.
know it's not that I was like looking for it and going, oh, I don't care. It wasn't on my radar. I was just like, oh, the story that's going on, understood like the concept of wrestling and everything else, like the predetermined nature of it all. But I just swept away by the story. That's all I cared about. And then every now and
Mm.
again, something would happen, like a real life event had happened, like within the wrestling sphere, and it'd be like, oh yes, the real people are happening behind the scenes. Okay, I get this, but I didn't
Mm.
really know about the politics of it. I didn't really know about being fed up with the contracts and all that. Just not a clue at that point. I think it must have been when I was about maybe, yeah, just going into college, maybe college time, as you're just getting a bit older and you're a bit curious about this thing that you've watched all your life. So yeah, probably around then.
You talked about their real life events. Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember the first real life event, should I say, that you were like, oh, these are real people?
It was Eddie dying. I think that was a really that hit me as a youngster because I think I obviously joined the fandom
Mm.
really at Eddie's you don't want to say peak, but like the peak of his popularity, let's say within WWE. So he was this megastar when I first started watching wrestling. I'm so invested in that character, the battles of Rey Mysterio and all the Batista stuff right up until that point. And that was a big one for me. And that was what a couple of years in maybe, but that was a big thing of oof, okay, these aren't just these characters, these superheroes. They're not. This is a real. And I remember getting quite upset about it as a kid because it was like one of your heroes dying. So I couldn't really compute that. And that was what 2006.
Five,
It
I
was 5 or
think.
6, late
Mm.
2005. Yeah, late 2000. You're
Late
right.
2005, I
You are
think.
right. I just always connect it with 2006 with all the Rey Mysterio stuff, I think. But yeah, you're right. Late 2000. So yeah, at that age, what, 10?
Yeah.
It really, yeah, there was no getting away from that. It was on all the news and everything. Obviously, WWE did the tribute shows, and in your head as a kid, you're like, is this the story? Like, because you don't know, you have no idea, no concept of all this. But it was only when it started popping up on actual, um, yeah, like your British news channels and things like that. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And like speaking to my parents about it, it was this, oh, this is real. So yeah, that was. I don't want to say a wake up call because that like, but it
Did
was
that
something when
burst
like,
your bubble, for lack of a better word, about
um.
wrestling?
No, I still loved it, but it just it became less of
In terms of what it was, I mean.
yeah, probably like in terms of it went from being like a cartoon that I watch on a Saturday morning to being oh they're people like this is like a theater thing like the this is I think I'd always made that connection in my head from that point on like oh this is theater these are people on
Mm.
stage acting really with like physical theater and yeah from that point on I think it was just a thing of yeah this isn't just like cartoons. But yeah, it's not just
Yeah,
cartoon people.
I know exactly what you mean there.
Mhm.
So when you first discovered wrestling, you may have talked about this a bit, but we sort of jumped around a little bit. So when you first get that tape of WrestleMania 20,
Mhm.
are you someone that already has Sky and you're like, I need to find the channel it's on, or was you a sort of begging your parents to get Sky because of it?
No, I didn't. I don't think I begged them to get Sky. I think my father was a bit of an avid sports fan, so I think I was very lucky. I think he did have Sky. And again, I don't think we had all the channels. I think we just had that one because he was big into his rugby, big into his football. So I think that was his thing. He liked his sport, and then
Mm.
I think WWE was like Sky Sports 3 or something. So it was like just a part
Mm.
of the package, whatever it was. I did have to beg for pay-per-views.
Yeah,
Beg and plead for pay-per-views. And it was great back then because you'd buy the pay-per-view, but then you get it for like a week or so after. So you get all the reruns. So you
oh
get to just
yeah.
I'd rewatch it and over and over and over again. I can remember Armageddon really clear in my head. I think it was at Armageddon 2008. I think it was Armageddon 2008. Yeah, I had that one. Royal Rumble 2008 with Cena's comeback. I had that one and I like bashed that. All the WrestleManias I get, that was my treat. I'd always get WrestleMania. But then if I got lucky, as they realized, I think my parents that I was quite seriously a fan of this stuff and it wasn't just a
Mm.
phase, it did become it became a bit of a bargaining point of right, if you're good, you
Yeah, I
have
get
one of
you.
these at some point. So yeah, that was yeah, I had to beg for pay-per-views, but no, I think we had very lucky again. A lot of kids my age didn't have Sky and didn't have the like that option really, but I was quite lucky.
Do you remember the most sort of bargaining point of maybe you'd misbehaved, but then you realized, oh, there's a pay-per-view this weekend. If I don't
Oh,
behave, I can't watch it.
oh, plenty of times. Oh yeah, yeah. That was again. Yeah, they weaponized it. They weaponized my love of wrestling at some point. It was like, yeah, you got to be good. So I wasn't necessarily a super naughty kid, but yeah,
No, but I know what
that's
you
where you
mean.
test your luck. Yeah, you test your luck, and then the hammer would come down. No, you're not having No Mercy 2007. No, like yeah,
I
that
get
was
what
it.
you mean completely there. So you talked about maybe dipping in and out a bit when you went to, was it university or drama school? I always get that wrong. I do apologize.
Sorry, yeah, yeah, it was drama school. Yeah, and it was just time.
Mm.
It wasn't like a thing of, oh, I'm fed up, I've started with this. I'd get all the YouTube highlights and I'd just pick and choose what I wanted to watch. And I caught like this, like I think it was like mid Shield when the Shield was starting to become a thing. Like I caught bits about, but you're at that point, I guess, in your life where if you're not working in terms of like doing college, drama school, and drama school was quite intensive, so you didn't really when you came home, you were studying, you were doing other stuff, and then maybe if you did want to breathe, you didn't necessarily want to be sat there looking into your laptop, but you wanted to
Mm.
be out living your life as a youngster. So
Yeah.
it took a bit of a backseat. Again, I never properly disconnected to the point of if I'm looking back on certain years going, I can't remember anything that happened this year. This is crazy. It was never that. I'd always hit like the key checkpoints. I'd always be in and around WrestleMania season and all that. But I'd say it was a time thing. Yeah, it wasn't like falling out of love with it kind of thing.
Yeah. I get what you mean there. So how does drama school and wrestling lead you to the great place that is What Culture Wrestling?
Oh, right. So they are connected. So in terms of, like I was saying, I didn't have loads of time to watch wrestling at that point. So I actually did, and I've not been put up to say this. I did organically stumble onto What Culture as a YouTube thing because they watched wrestling, so I didn't have to at times. So it was like ups and downs, all these review videos, and it was a thing of, oh, if I just like I can have this on like in the background if I'm doing other stuff or but when I just want to come down a little bit and I don't feel like sitting to a full rest, I just have that. And that became like a running thing, probably from maybe my second year of drama school. So that's probably about 2015-ish,
Mm.
that period. And then that's when I started to realize, oh, there is still people out there my age who like are obsessed with this wrestling stuff and like similar age to me. And it felt like a lot of my opinions on wrestling were shared by a lot of the people, a lot of the
Mm.
presenters, like everything else who were working through What Culture. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. So that there was that connection, and then I went off doing loads of other jobs. I've done jobs where I've had to go and like travel around the world and everything else for the next couple of years. But then I ended up coming back home to Manchester, and then there was a job ad for I think it was an MMA presenter for What Culture. We were doing the MMA UFC stuff, and I was at that point I was casual to I quite liked UFC MMA, so
Mm.
I had an interest in it, really a quite keen interest, and I knew more than Conor McGregor, like I knew like my fair share. And so I thought, yeah, that's probably a good time just to I'll throw that net out there, see what I can catch. And I got an interview like everything else, and I slowly started writing articles. I had to prove that I could write first because I was not a very good writer, and I had to develop that skill. I knew I could present just through my acting and everything else, and I'd done a few little podcast things, interview things like yourself. So I'd done little bits and just like flex those muscles, but or at least like develop those muscles a little bit. And then I got to the point then where I was confident enough a writer to write and then adapt my own stuff. And
Mm.
I did a little bit of that for like an open day or so, let's say, through What Culture. It was quite cool. And then, yeah, cut long story short, like a month or two later, got offered the job and here we are.
Who were the presenters at the time when you joined What Culture? Was it the Cultaholic crew?
Yeah, it was. It was yeah, the full Cultaholic crew. Yeah, and I think Miller was still in around, but it was largely, yeah, the full Cultaholic boys, I think. Yeah, because I think I probably got the last year or two of them and then everything
Mm.
happened. But yeah, yeah, caught a lot of them. So they were like my entry point into it. And then I think I did stick around afterwards to just see what was going to develop. Obviously, kept an eye on the Cultaholic stuff and just kept an eye on What Culture. I just like what
Mm.
was going on both sides of it. So it was weirdly, it was the best of both worlds because you could see everyone was just going off doing their own things and just being quite creative. And yeah, it was an interesting time. Like the unknown was curious to me at that point. So I
Mm.
was intrigued by it.
You talk about the unknown there. You've just been offered this job by What Culture.
Mhm.
The main presenters you've watched are leaving and things like that. So, did you have any sort of doubts that, like, okay, this job might not be here in 4 months or whatever?
Well, not necessarily because it'd been a couple of years in between that. So
Oh,
it'd been
right. I've got confused somewhere.
no,
Sorry.
don't worry. I think of the way I delivered that, yeah, that probably makes sense. But I think I put in my application, it was like towards the back end of 2019. I think I couldn't give you a year, but I think it was a couple of years before that they gone. So I'd seen how it developed. I'd stuck around. I'd seen how things had developed. I'd seen the new like Wilborn and the Michaels coming in, and Like I'd seen all that and gone, oh, okay, all right, yeah, I like where this is going still. And obviously Miller's still Miller, so I was loving engaging with all that. So I was still quite confident in it, and just seeing it as a job opportunity in general. I never really thought of it as one until the job application was there. And I was like, oh, okay, I fit a lot of this criteria. I can actually have a go at this, and then it just
Mm.
yeah, snowball from there.
I get what you're saying completely there. You brought up being such a fan of the great man that is Simon Miller there and things like that. So I assume by now, as we record this in February of 2024, you've had some personal interactions with Miller and things like that. So have you had any moments where it's like, I'm a bit starstruck because this is the guy that I grew up watching?
Well, I've had it, yeah, a little bit with Miller, but then I also remember like really vividly my first. I think it was when I had the taster day at Whatculture. I went to, I went to go into the office and chickened out because it was one of those where you had to like buzz yourself in. And I could see through like a window, I could see all the presenters and writers and everything else. And I recognized so many people. I don't think Miller was in the office at this point. And I could just see all the other people that I knew through the
Yeah.
job. And I was just like, oh, okay, run to the bathroom. And I just went into the bathroom, just composed myself a little bit because that's I've had auditions and things in the past where you feel a bit overwhelmed and you go,
Oh
all right,
yeah.
just take a second, just have a minute. And I went and did that. But Miller's lovely. Miller doesn't make you can get in your own head and be like, but
Mm.
he's just lovely. So there's no thing of oh my goodness, like he doesn't big time you. He's a lovely guy. We've had some lovely conversations over the years. I bumped into him at wrestling pay-per-views every now and again, and like we have a lovely chat. He's just a nice guy. All the stories you hear about him being a nice guy,
Oh,
they're all
true.
true. He's a lovely guy.
Mm. Yeah. You talked about him being a lovely guy and stuff. We skipped around a bit, but that's just how my interviews go. I do apologize. So it's like
No, don't worry about it.
when it comes to obviously you for NXT ups and downs, you sort of stepped into that show with Simon Miller's blessings isn't the right word, but I know what I mean. Your approach to do ups and downs. So as an avid watcher of ups and downs, what was that like to be told, oh, I've watched this show, I've now got to do it?
Yeah, a bit intimidating that one. That was probably more intimidating than meeting anybody because that
Mm,
was I've been a fan of the concept and watched it for so many years. You're like that feels like wizardry to me that they were even able to do that. I always remember being in the office and seeing people go in and recording ups and downs and they'd be in and out in like 20 minutes, like, oh yeah, done it. And I'd be like, what? How?
how?
How did you just do? Yeah, it was witchcraft to me. Absolutely like yeah, mind-boggling. But it's like anything, you just need reps. That's what I say
Mm,
to anyone with anything that you find so daunting. It was the same with writing. It's the same with that particular concept. I really struggled with face to camera videos, is what we call them. So like ups and downs, like editorial things. When you do
mm,
see down the lens and you're talking and presenting stuff, I used to struggle with those so much because you have to obviously like read as you go, and just it's a different skill to just doing a voiceover, obviously, because you need to be a bit
mm,
more animated. You're there,
mm,
you're present. You need to be just making it a bit more of an active watch for people. And I really struggled to find that fluidity, I think, for a while. And it
mm,
just took reps. It just doing it and doing it and doing it. You take things from other people. You go, okay, I quite like how they go about doing this, how they lead into this, blah, blah, blah. And you build your own little toolkit. And then you find your own little stuff. And you go, okay, that's what I do. I quite like doing that. That's what I can fall back on. I feel comfortable doing that. And then you try stuff that doesn't like necessarily work. And it works for other people. And you go, oh, okay, that doesn't. It's all a process, and it's not a thing of you're never gonna go into something like that and just get it. And if you do,
yeah.
you're superhuman and you deserve
Mm.
all the money. But
As we
yeah,
as we were talking about off camera, and I think this is good as a content creator. I cringe when I watch my early What Culture interviews when I had you on the first time because I think if I remember correctly, I was recording in my little front room and I was being shouted at to stop because my I was making noise if I remember correctly, and my mum was like, "We need to go to sleep," if I remember correctly. And so I do really cringe when I watch that one back. So I do understand what you're saying about needing reps and stuff.
yeah.
So, what advice would you have for someone? Actually, we'll go into that first. Did Miller give you any advice when you was approached to do the NXT ups and downs?
Well, it was at that point. I think I went through a few of the other people in the office to go through the ups and downs stuff. So I was like speaking to Cleary and a few other people, and we were
Oh yeah.
sort of pitching that. And I had a lot of help as well from the brilliant Chris Thompson, who's our editor. He'd obviously done a lot of the editing for NXT Ups and Downs in particular. And he gave me a lot of stuff. He'd be like, try this, maybe slow down, make sure you. A big one for me, I'd always turn my, and it was, I think it was Chris and Adam Nicholas were brilliant with this when it comes to editing.
Mm.
Phil's been great as well. All the editors know the tricks of the trade. Us presenters just do stuff, okay? And they'd always, and I used to be terrible at it. I'd never like linger on a point. So if I said something and finished the line, you meant to say it and then stop and look into the camera.
Yeah, because it's a cut point
So it lets
sort
it
of thing.
land. I finish my thing and go da 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 da, and then look away straight away, and they'd be like, because now it looks terrible in the cut
Mm.
because you've done all that, and it's little things that you wouldn't know unless you've made the mistakes and
Yeah.
been like advised and guided by very patient editors and very brilliant editors. So yeah, that I owe it all to them. Really, it's not me.
You brought up editors there, which this is kind of a good segue. How do you start doing the Saturday news with the great man that is Phil Chambers?
So that was quite organic. Again, it was I initially when I joined and started doing I joined and moved to Newcastle. So I was in office and I work weekends. I work Saturday and Sunday. So I did both days
Mm.
and it just naturally fell into it because obviously the news through the week was being brilliantly anchored by Wilborn and Murray. They were just killing it. So it was like, we're not going to mess with that. Every now and again, if like we had like a late afternoon news, oh, do you want to come in? We'll play with it a bit. Cool. Like we'd have a bit of that, but we left those to it because they were smashing it. We don't want to mess with that formula. So on the weekend though, it was mostly I'd say that the lead wrestling like contributors that we had there on the weekend were primarily me and Phil. I think Jules was in and around when we needed to do a bit of SmackDown
Mm.
podcasting, and we had a scream. We had a great time. But that was me doing that and learning that again. So learning that skill, being next to Phil was just so relaxed and just so like you say what you want, really. I can cut around it. And he just give you that full freedom. It's like we're not live, chill, it's fine.
Mm.
So I learned there, and I only had a couple of months because then obviously pandemic happened. We had to move everywhere and all that stuff. So I had a couple of months to really get some reps in. Did it on my own a few times, which is a completely different skill because you're having a conversation with yourself, which is like daunting as all hell. And then again, we just kept doing it then through the pandemic. We started doing it at home through computers, realized that we were quite good at that. We got that down to a T. And then when I transitioned into like just being a bit here, there, and everywhere, we still managed to keep on doing it because we built such a rapport. We could do it with our eyes shut now. We wouldn't
Mm.
recommend doing it because it'd be a weird video, but
Yeah.
that's we can now, which is yeah, we've got that a good relationship with it. So
You talked about there having a good relationship and things like that. Are there certain things that you know, if I mention this, this is gonna, to use a wrestling word, pop Phil on a video, or if I mention this, this is gonna get almost a cringe reaction out of him.
oh, you all have your little in jokes, yeah, and your little things you can poke each other with, but yeah, more often than not, I just say something stupid mid video, and then he'll just store it, and then just wait right until like the last moments of the video and just fling it back at me and just catch me out, and I crack. I'm we call it corpsing in the obviously the acting business, but
Oh
I
yeah.
so easily if you just catch me off guard ever so slightly. Yeah, and he knows just to have Salty nearby. The minute Salty's nearby and the postman comes at 10 o'clock, I'm done for. I just can't keep a straight face. Yeah, so he knows what buttons to press with me, without a doubt.
That's very, very cool, my friend. You talked about there not wanting to mess with the formula that is Andy H. Murray and Adam Wilborn when it comes
Mhm.
to the weekly news. So did you take, I know we talked about you learn everything from different people in what culture.
Mhm.
Did you and Phil take anything from Adam and Andy that you were like, this is what we do, this is what they do, we're going to take this, but this is what they do, and we're going to do our own thing with this?
I don't think we did it consciously. It's a great question, but I don't think we did it
Some
consciously.
of
I
my
think
questions are very wordy. I do
oh no, they're
apologize.
good though. Because you definitely again you're pushing the right buttons here. You're not making me like crack and go mate like crazy, but you're definitely getting the right responses. It was weird. It was because I used to watch even on my days off. I'd have or in the mornings I'd have Wilborn and Murray just playing. That was my daily news. I'd always have it on the TV. So you pick up little things and go, okay, that's interesting that they did that. Next time I do, I might have a go at that. And all of it's just I like to see it as you just absorbing information, just absorbing information. Subconsciously, you'll just start to use things that you feel are working. Me and Phil just you have different dynamics with everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like I've done news with Wilbur. I think I've done news with Murray, and like I've done news with probably most people within the office. Nicholas used to do it a few times. If you've got different, you just naturally do have different like relationship
Chemistries.
dynamics and chemistries. Yeah, you just do. So it's always different, which is fun. No matter what like battleship you're doing, you probably see with like the podcast and things like that. Depending on what like selection of people you got, you're gonna have a completely different podcast, and it's just the same. It's the same with that. So it's always fun.
She talks about there the different chemistries in what culture. Who is someone that currently on the what culture wrestling team that you're like, I'd love to work with them more. They're really fun. They're really underrated.
I love working with the Dudley boys, like the full group. Obviously, everyone's great. Everyone's like just get that straight out there. I work with everyone any time of the week. Whenever I go in and I get to go into the office and do like an office day and we do loads of record, it's just awesome, so awesome. We do all the quizzes and everything like that. But early on, I did a few little like podcast roundtable things with like the Sidgwick and Hamflet and everything else, and it's just I anytime I can be around people with that level of knowledge on wrestling, like everyone's got their own specialties and like their own like levels of fandom within it, and that's what makes this so cool because that's what makes what culture what it is. Everyone's got their own different points of view on it. But with those two, you just feel like they walk in encyclopedias. So whenever you just sit there, you just find yourself just getting absorbed in it, and you're like, I don't have much to contribute. I'm just there to listen, really. It's one of those. So and they're great fun. They're lovely guys as well. So I could say that pretty much about it's a bit of a cop-out answer. I could say that pretty much about anybody within the company. But yeah, whenever I've done stuff with them, like I think we did a few quizzes last year and it was just quiet. We had a scream. So yeah, I don't know how we got any work done.
That's very, very cool. Someone, and this is such a fanboy question, and I shouldn't ask this, but I'm going to. Somebody that I'd love to see you work with more is the great man that is Andrew Pollard. I'd love to see you two do some stuff
Of
more because
course,
he is great. I'm not gonna
of
lie.
course. I completely and that how I feel bad because obviously he's just never in the office when I go into the office because he's Wrexham boy and like, but we used to do loads of new stuff like back in the day when we both worked Sundays. We'd end up like doing a lot of news things together. Pollard's a legend. Pollard's a legend, and again, very easy just to bounce off. We could. I think we did. If I remember correctly, I'm sure, and it was a pretty harrowing day because it was loads of releases. It was like I think it was the Black Wednesday. Was
Oh,
the first one that in the middle of the pandemic. I'm sure it was me and him because we used to work pretty late to like 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just me and him, and we threw out all these things, and we were just bouncing off, and it was just very easy, very easy. Again, super knowledgeable guy when it comes to just like I'd say like new generation era in particular. He just knows his stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm just in awe
Big
of it.
Bret Hart guy from when I spoke
Oh,
to him. He
big
was
time, yeah. Bret Hart guy, Tatanka. Always throw him in. So yeah, he's the top guy as well. I'd love to. We were like passing ships in the night when it came to the Clash at the Castle in Wales when we were all kind of in and around it. And yeah, I've just not quite managed to. I've never met. I don't think I've met him in person. And do you have to really think back? I've been there for years now, and I
Was
don't
you not
think
at the
I've
show
done.
there?
I've not done. No, I've not been. I've not been to one of the live shows or anything. Because every time I'm there, I'm being dragged everywhere. I always miss people. But yeah, it's hopefully I'm crossing all the fingers. Hopefully this year because I'm gonna go to the All In this year. So if he's in around All In, hopefully I can grab him, snag him.
That's very, very cool, my friend. So we talked about your career at What Culture and things like that. What's still on your bucket list at What Culture that you're like, that'd be fun to do?
I'd love to go to WrestleMania, but they always go without me. That's it. That's it. I'm throwing it in there. No, that's a running joke at this point. We always laugh and joke about it, but I don't know. I would like to go to and do one of the live shows. That's a thing. And I always get offered and I always like speak. It's not like you're left out of it. One of those things. I always speak to Mary and like we always like try and sync up, but it's just a lot of moving pieces a lot of times. 'Cause we're all coming from different parts of the country. We're all staying in different. It's just a bit difficult. That'd be great. I'd love to do that. I'd love to do more videos with just everyone with the gang. Just be in it. But again,
Who's
that's
one person that you're like, I'd love to make a video happen with them by the end of this year?
I don't know because it's rare that you just end up doing like a two-person video unless it's a news really. So I would just like to do a big thing with everyone, really. Do a live event, do like get the full gang in there and just have us all bouncing off each other. Because I think the last time everyone was there, so like the full gang, Miller, no, but again, Pollard wasn't even there, so not everyone was there, but like the majority, let's say, of us
Was
were
it
there.
pre-pandemic? Some of the quizzes that were
I think we
pre-recorded.
did a couple after, and it's began a couple of years ago at this point. So it's a bit like, and it's always great. It's a good group of people, and we all like work well together. So yeah, anything like that. That's on my bucket list for 2024. More work with the guys.
That's very, very cool, my friend. You talked about what you want to do with what culture, but if your acting was to progress and you was like, I've been offered this role,
Mhm.
but it would mean I have to leave what culture? Is that something you'd be open to doing, or?
I've had roles throughout my time in What Culture, and it's the most accommodating place on planet Earth, and they're super understanding. I managed to juggle doing my new stuff and like doing theatre things and TV things, and we have a good system in place, and they're so they're awesome. They're awesome with me because it could very easily it could be a thing of, oh, I've got this now, I'm gonna be half occupied for 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever it is. Oh, what am I going to do? But they always go, you can work as much or as little, just like we're here, whatever you need. And they're awesome. They're awesome. So I got nothing but good things to say there on that end and from my history of doing it already. So,
That's very, very cool. So before we do a segment that we may have done last time, I can't remember. It's called generic questions
okay.
uh, and things like that. I want to know, do you view your career, Gareth, as a success at what culture?
Oh, yeah, more than ever like imaginable, really, from being I don't know, from being a kid back in what 2004, thinking that I'd somehow be in a position to do this for I always do that for a job, and I'm like, no, it is a job
Mm,
somehow. It's mind blowing. So yeah, it's been a success, and it's been a success that I've managed to keep doing it for so many years. Because it was when I initially got the job, it was a thing of right, let's have a go, let's see what this is like, let's
mm,
try. I'm a big advocate of just have a go, have a go.
mm.
Now, I've tried a few other things in the past, and they've not necessarily worked out. So I've always had a go. And with this, it was really tough early on. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be able to keep doing this. Like I've been away from home and
Mm.
like just when the pandemic happened, that was a big thing of, oh, do I really want to be doing this? It's like
Mm.
it is a difficult job and you're in your head a lot. And like at that point in time where everyone's mental health was a bit on the ropes,
Mm.
it was a I don't want to say it was hard because people were going through like really
I know
difficult
what you
policies
mean,
during
though.
that period. But it was a challenge in itself, its own unique challenge. And yeah, I'm proud. I know that, and I'm always not very good at doing this and pat on the back and things like that, but I'm very proud of, I'd say, the person maybe 4 years ago now looking at them going, hey, you did it. You did all right. You're still cracking on. So yeah, a success, I'd call it, hopefully.
You talk about the person 4 years ago. What would you, if we had some sort of DeLorean or some sort of like communication device, and you could talk to that person from 4 years ago? What would you say to that person?
Be a bit more patient.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd be really patient, not just with like the process, with life, everything else, with yourself. Just be a bit more. Don't expect it all to come straight away. Like when you're taking on these new challenges, like I'm saying with the videos and everything else, like you need that time to earn that experience and to grow as a presenter, as a performer, as a person, really, throughout it all. Not just like throughout my career, just personally. Like there was I like to think I was quite mature like 4 years ago. Wasn't like, yeah, I was in my mid-20s still, but it's a lot's happened obviously since then. And I
Yeah,
just say you need to just maybe roll with it. Maybe don't try as much to, and this sounds very abstract, don't try as much to just do things. Just sometimes you need to just
let
surrender,
things happen.
let it happen. What's gonna
Mm.
what's meant for you will come for you kind of thing. So just
Mm.
yeah. And I'm still working on that today, really. Just let things happen. Don't try and yeah, will things into like realization and everything. Just go with it.
You talk about they're still working on things.
Mhm.
If someone wants to grow as a presenter, what advice do you have for them if maybe they're looking to get into your line of work and things like that? What advice do you have for them? And then what do you still need to work on as a presenter? This sounds more like a therapy session.
Yeah, got these. Yeah, yeah. It's ringing a few bells. Uh right, so I'll go for the first one then. The first, I'd say to get into this, you need to put yourself out there. Be really scary. Understand exactly how scary it is, and that's doing videos either for yourself, like if you wanted, like yourself, start a channel, do your own thing.
Mm.
I didn't necessarily do that. I jumped onto another channel and just to put myself out there, but in a sense, the writing and all that stuff, I was terrified of that. I was not confident at all. And that was a real vulnerable thing of, okay, here are my words. Are they good? Are they not? Like, but I had to do it. and I did it more. I did it more, and you have to take take the feedback on board. And again, it sounds really cliche, but don't take it personally. It's not an attack on you. It's not, and it can feel like that at times when it is such a vulnerable thing. It's such a sensitive thing when it's like your own writing, your own presenting, whatever it is. But try and find the constructive criticism within it, even if it's not worded in a constructive way. Sometimes just try and extract what you can. Never read the comment section either.
No.
I'd say within, maybe that's probably not the right way of putting it. I'd say maybe the top couple of comments, because they tend to be quite constructive, or like if they are positive, whatever it is, you tend to find the ones at the top are just the ones that I'll maybe look at. But yeah, towards, I'd say the YouTube can be a dark place. Now, okay, if you need any like 5-star reviews, it could be a dark place. Okay, the internet, especially YouTube. So for your own mental health, take the stuff maybe that you can use. So like good feedback. I've had some cracking feedback from people in the comment section in the past, stuff that I've really used and really gone, you know what, thank you for that. And like people word it in a lovely way, and you go, yeah, cool. And then you have some lovely praise, and people are enjoying it, and that's great in itself. But every now and again, early on, I got knocked a few times by a lot of the things that were put in the comment section, and it was a bit like, took them personally, and it did shake me a little bit. And it was only then speaking to a few of the presenters and a few of the people within Whatculture who went, I understand why you'd take that personally, but on to the next.
For lack of a better word.
Yeah, don't. Just come on to the next one. That was key. So I'd recommend that, and that'd be a huge thing for anyone. For myself to work on, I think it's just, again, they all sound super cliche, but the truth, just relaxing a bit more. Sometimes I still, at this point, even though I've been doing it for years, you get in a rut sometimes. If you're doing a certain video, it's not coming out the way you want. Maybe your writing's not coming out. And the more you seize up and the more you constrict yourself, the harder it gets in anything. So you just need to take a breath, take a break. And that's a big one. I'm not very good at taking breaks. So taking 10 minutes to yourself, go and have a cup of coffee, or stare out the window, listen to some music, do whatever it is. Take that time. So that's something to work on for myself.
You talk about taking that time and things like that. What do you do to make sure, Gareth is still a wrestling fan and this isn't just part of your job?
Really good question, because you do get that, like, that line blurs sometimes, and you're a bit like, and it's such a privileged position to be in, and I'm grateful every single day. I'm not just saying it, super grateful. Awesome what we get to do. We get to watch wrestling, talk about it for a living, write about it for a living. It's insanity. But then there are those times, like if I am losing a bit of that love for it, sometimes I give myself a minute, give myself a break, maybe don't watch one of the shows this week, just to give myself that day off, just so I can want to watch it again. I find that like through Christmas, I'll always be a bit like, okay, I'll take my foot off the gas a bit, and then I'll just naturally find myself going, what's going on that show? And your love for it comes back again. You want to keep up to date, and you're just curious what's going down. You get FOMO. If you're on social media, so you get FOMO. The minute somebody goes, have you heard about this? You're like, yeah, I've not heard about this. What's going on? You want to see it all. So yeah, give yourself maybe a break from it sometimes. But then if you do really, sometimes you won't necessarily want to come back for a bit, which is absolutely fine as well. But often you will just find yourself draw back to it, I guess.
And then what do you do on them days you're like, I'm burned out, but this video is required? How do you keep yourself motivated, for lack of a better word?
Well, like the very like cold answers, the money. Like we need like to kind of
Fair.
keep a roof over your head, obviously, and you need food and everything else. Like that's a good motivator itself. But then on the other side of it, and just as important, if not more important, is just the thing of the privilege of it all. Like you can't lose perspective on that. And sometimes you will. We're human. Like if you get stressed, if you get like annoyed by a situation, you're gonna lose sight of it sometimes. But it's just having that, even if it's just at the very end of the day, going, I'm getting stressed here because I'm one of the videos that I've wrote about wrestling isn't going the way I want to like it to be. Oh, woe is me. Like it's never that big a deal, really. And like it's such an awesome position to be in. So yeah, that tends to bring me down to earth a bit sometimes. When you compare notes with other people as well, you go, oh, God, I had a really stressful day, and they go, oh, what have you done? And then you explain your stress, and they explain their stress of working in a factory and picking like 100 tons of like grocery, and you're like, okay, yeah, no, my day's been okay. Sorry.
Fair enough. I see what you're saying completely there. So you talked about how you keep yourself a wrestling fan, but as we record this in February of 2024,
Oh, you
what
had
is
your
the
time machine out then. I was like, where are we
yeah,
going?
I know, I know. What is the show that you're like, even if I wasn't working, I'd probably be checking this out?
It used to be AEW. I think the last time we did this interview was AEW Dynamite. I was like, no
I
matter
think
what,
so.
I'm on it. I think right now, it's hard because Raw and SmackDown have started being kind of good again. So that's I think probably SmackDown. I know like Raw's slowly started to maybe
Hmm?
overtake SmackDown in a lot of people's mind, but for me, it's just an easy watch. Really easy watch. A lot of more often than not, there's a lot of good wrestling on it. Like I can keep up with certain stories. You got your bloodline stuff going down there as well, and it's just that's probably the thing. I'd sit down with somebody and go, oh, do you want to just see a quick glimpse into like what wrestling is right now? Have a quick watch of SmackDown, see what you think, and yeah, that's probably what I'd do.
That's very, very cool, my friend. As we look at wrapping this up, because we've been going for 40 minutes, and I do want to be
Oh,
respectful of your time, my friend.
oh, thank
If
you.
this was to all end tomorrow and like you stepped away from what culture and things like that, what would you want your legacy as a content creator and presenter to be?
Ooh, good one. Good question. Uh, I hope that like above all else, people have just been entertained by it.
Mm,
Really, because yeah, sometimes we have to talk about some quite serious subjects, and that's
mm,
been its own lesson in itself, because obviously you don't really get the full training on that before you come into it, and it's a bit like, oh, I have to be articulate now about some quite
mm,
real things that are happening in the
mm,
world. So like that can obviously the aim of that is to be informative. So like again, an informative legacy is also very good, but for me what culture was to me when I first started watching was a bit of an escape. It was a bit of a connection thing. I didn't have many people in my life that like wrestling, so I connected with this, and it really
mm.
made me like feel validated in the fandom. And I was a bit like, yeah, it's kind of cool to like wrestling. I'm like makes me feel better about it. I'd want if I've been able to do that for anyone, I'm happy. I'm happy. That's
Mm.
I've kept a roof over my head, and I've done for somebody else what culture did for me.
That's very, very cool. So you brought up there some of the more sensitive subjects that you might have to cover. How does your presenting style change when you might be reporting? My words are not coming out today.
Yeah, don't worry. Mine don't.
Reporting,
Regularly.
reporting on something that you're like, oh, this is gonna like might be triggering, or do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, it is. There is a difference. There has to be a difference. Of course, there does. Like we can't talk about like really harrowing things in the same way you talk about a wrestler just lost a match. It's not going to be the same thing, is it?
Yeah.
You just more often than not, you stick to your facts, you deliver your facts, you be informative, you try and be measured in what you're saying, and just yeah, deliver it. Really, don't overthink it. I think when I first started out, I think I was very well, I need to change everything.
Yeah.
You do, understandably, of course you do, because you don't want to say the wrong thing, you don't want to upset anybody, you don't want to offend anybody. Like there's real people involved, you just don't. So you just have a second, don't overthink it, stick to your facts, don't try and be too clever. Is probably the best bit of advice I could say with that kind of serious stuff. And then being around people, it helps when you are around people and you've got like a co-presenter in that moment. It's great because you can bounce off each other a little bit and just have that support in it. When you're on your own doing it, just get it out. Just get it out. Get out the clear facts and don't overthink it.
That's very, very cool. Before we do generic questions, I forgot I did this with Pollard the other day. We're going to do a quick word association. I'm going to say
Yeah.
what culture wrestling presenter, and you're going to say three words to describe them.
Oh, three. All right. Okay.
Yeah, if
Okay.
that's okay, it can be
That's
one.
all right. I'm just pepping the mind now.
Should we? We'll start with the great man that is Adam Wilborn.
um, colorful, singing, and microphone.
Uh,
Microphone.
his partner in crime, Andy H. Murray.
General. The general. I go lovable. He is a lovable guy. And then I'd say like teacher, like a kind of like teacher vibe. Yeah, he taught me a lot.
Um, Michael Hamflett.
Ham flip. Fun. It sounds like a very dull word, but he's so fun. Just so much fun to be around. Encyclopedia
Mm.
and Dr. Fed is what he is. He's Dr. Fed.
Mm.
That's my guy.
Michael Sidgwick.
Sidgwick. Ooh, Sidgwick. Okay. Surprising. There's surprising in there because yeah, that's for my own reasons. Very surprising man.
Mm.
Um, Assertive, like gives you the clear. I like decisive maybe. It's like he's very like gives you the clear. I'm overdoing my 3 words here, but yeah,
I know
decisive.
what you mean.
You know what I mean? To the point kind of guy. And then uh talented, so talented.
Mm. I have to remember in my head who have I missed? Phil Chambers.
Will Chambers. Partner.
Mm.
A partner. Uh Again, I'm trying to be PG.
Don't
uh
have to be.
Trying to think. He cleans up a lot of my mess, so I don't know how to word that as like a thing. Yeah, the repairman. That's
Mm.
3 words in itself, but yeah, the repairman for me, and then just it's like a big brother vibe. So they're not 3 words, the 3 phrases, but yeah, like a big brother
That's
vibe.
fine.
Just yeah, drags me along.
Have I missed anyone other than Simon and Pollard?
There's so many people in and around, so yeah, we're always gonna miss somebody.
We'll just do Simon and Pollard because I know I'll forget someone if not. Andrew Pollard.
Pollard, Welsh, and I'm half Welsh, so I've got a connection with my Pollard, like with my Welsh. Um, I'll go solo because we're the solo Sunday boys. We're the solo boys together, and then I'm just trying to be very yeah, trying not to be as generic as possible really with these because I got Brett. He's my Brett guy. Tim
Yeah.
Hamflet, but they're my Brett guys. I go Brett.
And then finally, because I know we'll forget someone, or we'll be here all night. Simon Miller.
My father, apparently. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We're related in some way. Curious
Hmm.
and driven. I'd probably say that with that guy.
Fair enough, my friend. So as we look at wrapping this up, so like I said, I do want to be respectful of your time. We're going to do a segment that I call generic questions. Those of you that have seen my podcast before will know this where I ask my guests their favorite match, favorite pay-per-view card, such as Gareth's favorite match, favorite card, such as Double or Nothing 2019, favorite wrestler's entrance theme, favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler. Basically, the questions that I assume Gareth might get asked on social media. So now he'll have a place to be like, I've answered this.
Yes.
Please go watch this. So, what's your favorite match of all time?
Favorite match of all time. Favorite match of all time. I think I had. It was a nice experience, so I'm gonna go for the experience of like what was happening at the time. It could be so
Mm,
many. It'll change every day. This and I really enjoyed Cody Seth at WrestleMania 38. There's been loads of the incredible matches that I probably jumped that, but
mm.
for that moment in time, I had to catch a train all the way from Manchester to Newcastle. Got to the studio at about 11:59 or something before WrestleMania started. Was running on no energy. I'd been doing rehearsals all week for a show, and me and Murray just sat there and we drank Whatculture brand beer, and we just had a great time. And it was Cody returned and had this epic match, and a lot of nice feelings that come with that. So I'll go that one today on this day. That's my favorite match.
That's very, very cool. What about your favorite overall pay per view card, such as Double or Nothing 2019?
So are we gonna do pay-per-view card and then just pay-per-view or just pay-per-view card? Is this all?
Just pay per view card, but it's if you want to say a pay per view to throw out there as well, that's fine.
I go all in because I was there and it was just the best time. And the second all in, obviously, but I was yeah very close on the floor and it was just a biblical experience seeing Punk come out and have that incredible match with Joe. I know there were a few matches maybe we wanted there. We wanted like Kenny having a singles match and all that kind of stuff. But that card in the end turned out to be pretty damn cool and just Sting and MGF and Adam Cole main event. It was an awesome card and I was there. So yeah, that's always in my heart.
Very, very cool. What about your favorite wrestler's entrance theme?
Entrance theme. Kenny Omega Battle Cry has been on my
Ooh,
gym playlist for quite some time, and if it wasn't that, it'd be CM Punk Cult Personality. So
why do those two speak to you?
just get me fired up. I don't know what it is. I just get fired up no matter what I'm doing. If those songs come on, I'm just like, check on the world. I'm just, yeah, get me fired up.
That's very, very cool. What about your favorite tag team?
Tag team, currently, I go FTR. I think you're never going to have a bad match out of FTR. I think they've just gone to a level like outside of WWE that many people wanted to see maybe in there, and like looking at them now, they just can't have a if they choose to, they can't have a bad match with anybody. Like you saw that with the Claudio John Moxley match that went down like last night. They're awesome.
As we record this, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there you go. They're just chef's kiss.
And then what about your favorite overall wrestler?
Favorite overall, I'm a punker. I'm a punker guy. That was probably the point where I was wobbling a bit in terms of my fandom. Maybe I've been keeping up with it pretty like religiously at that point, and I was like, oh, I'm just getting a bit fed up. 2010, 2011, and then Punk dropped that pipe bomb, and I was like, this is the coolest thing on planet Earth again. I'm here, I'm in, and yeah, I just fell in love with him. And tough couple of years there, he disappeared from all things wrestling, but then he came back with a vengeance, and he's just made it infinitely better. So Punk's my guy.
That's very, very cool. As I say, as always, to my guest, I'll say thank you to Gareth for a great conversation, as always. But as we wrap this up, Gareth, the question I end this show on is, I believe, as YouTubers, podcasters, even with people with social media, we're all sort of going to live forever in some sort of very strange way if you think about the world. So what is one piece of content you're like, I'd like to be remembered for that? And then what is one that you're like, if you could forget about that, I would appreciate it?
Probably the same one in a weird way. Okay, I'll try and differentiate them a little bit. I really like those NXT ups and downs videos. I was really proud of them. It was a rough time for the world, really, and I was going through a rough time with it, just like everyone else was. And they were a real target every week to get and try and better it and try and improve it and grow with it. And I look back on those now, and I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of where I was going there as a presenter. So yeah, check out them as my legacy, whatever it is. I know I'm not necessarily not proud of this one. It's just one of the I show this to people because I think it's so funny, but I'm just like, what are you thinking? And I got my head shaved, yeah, on YouTube. The first time I ever got my head shaved was a YouTube video. So it was probably the last video that we did on the end of like the pandemic, as the pandemic was starting. Sorry, so before the normal times and we hit the pandemic.
Yeah,
we did that video and it was just so surreal, and it was such a weird like bonding thing as a unit, like because we were all like there really, and it was just yeah, a very surreal time. But I do show people that because they're like, what? And I'm like, yep, the first time I ever shaved my head is now recorded on YouTube and you can watch it, which is yeah, weird.
That's very, very cool, my friend. So as we wrap this up, like I said, Gareth, I want to say thank you for another great conversation. But
Thank
please
you.
promote yourself. Where can the good people find you, your work, etc.?
You can find me. I feel like I'm in Hot Ones. Great. You can find me
This
on
camera, this camera, this camera.
yeah, this camera.
Sorry, I watch Hot Ones as well, so I had to say that.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He's good. But yeah, I'd probably go on Whatculture. You'll find me there on the wrestling and the main channel, on the Star Wars channel. I've been doing a few horror videos recently, so check those out. I've got like my writing part of the Whatculture page. So if you just type in Gaerth Morgan Whatculture, I'll come up as a writer and you can find all my articles there. I've just checked today because I just like skipped over it. I'm nearly on 2,000 articles since I've been working here. So I'm like, whoa, like
Congratulations.
so that was a cool thing. So a little pat on the back for that. So check out those. And then check me out on Twitter or X, whatever the hell it is. Yeah, at gmorgan04. You can see all the weird and wacky acting things that I get up to as well at times. It's yeah, check it all out.
It's very well worth doing, guys. One of the nicest people I've ever had the chance to interview, but one of the most hardworking as well. So if you guys like this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter or X at Tontalfrubbish, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye now.